Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to talk about something pretty incredible, how a single, simple flower managed to completely transform a community's entire future.
I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a fairy tale, right? But on this tiny island in South Korea, it actually happened. They took their old fields of traditional crops and turned them into, well, a literal golden sea of opportunity. And it all started with this one woman's simple but really powerful belief. She had this personal passion she'd been nurturing for decades, and without even realizing it, she was about to plant the seed for a total economic miracle for her whole island.
All right, so let's get into it. The story kicks off on Seondo, this small island with only about 270 people living there. And, like a lot of remote communities, the population is mostly elderly, and for generations, they've relied on the backbreaking work of farming and fishing just to make ends meet.
So for 30 years, this garden was basically her private sanctuary. But here's the thing. While her amazing daffodils were flourishing, the island itself, not so much. It was facing those all-too-familiar problems, an aging population and, you guessed it, falling income from their main crops like garlic and onions.
And that's when this really simple but profound question popped up. And it changed everything. This was the exact moment when a personal hobby, a passion project, started to look less like a garden and more like a blueprint for the island's survival.
Well, the local government officials, they saw it. They saw the incredible potential literally blooming in her garden. They realized it wasn't just a pretty view, it was a huge opportunity. And that led to a really, really ambitious plan.
They came up with this great name for it, Flopia. A mix of flower and utopia. The bigger vision was to create this whole network of 1,004 island parks all over the county. And for Sendong, the mission was crystal clear. Turn this island of onions and garlic into Daffodil Island. And this is the key takeaway here. This was a massive economic pivot. I mean, we're talking about a complete 180-degree turn. They were moving away from all that hard, low-return work with traditional crops and jumping into a brand new model built entirely on tourism and high-value farming, all centered on one single flower. Just one.
All right, so the big question. Did this wild, ambitious plan actually work? Well, let's just say the results of this floral revolution were absolutely staggering.
Get this, their very first Daffodil Festival, back in 2019, pulled in 12,000 visitors. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that is 48 times the island's entire population. Can you imagine? 48 times. All flocking to their shores for this one event. You can just feel the excitement in that quote, can't you? See, the project didn't just bring in tourists. It injected a whole new vibe, a sense of energy, of vitality, and most importantly, real prosperity back into the community. It's like the island itself felt young again. And look, what's so cool here is that we have the hard data to back up that feeling of prosperity. The numbers don't lie. Selling daffodil bulbs brought in more than double the income per hectare compared to onions. So this wasn't just about making the island prettier. It was about making it a much, much smarter place to do business. Okay, so Seondo's story is incredible, right? It's a huge bright spot. But you have to remember, it happened while the national flower industry was really struggling. So that brings up a much bigger question. Can the success of one little island actually help revive an entire economic sector? And to really get why Seondo's success is such a big deal, you kind of have to see the storm the rest of the industry is up against. For years now, South Korea's flower business has been battling some serious headwinds. We're talking a saturated market, less and less land to grow on, fierce competition from low-cost imports, and that same problem of an aging workforce.
So, what's the government doing about it? Well, they've come up with a national strategy to fight back. And this is the official plan. The core of it is this idea of a floriculture promotion zone. Basically, the goal is to create these huge integrated hubs that pull together everything: production, logistics, R&D, sales, all in one place. The idea is to create economies of scale and really boost their ability to compete on a global level. Now, this whole cluster strategy isn't exactly a new idea. They're taking cues from the big players, the global leaders. You've got the Netherlands, for example, with their massive green ports. These are giant industrial and R&D hubs. Then you have Japan, which is all about creating synergy between the government, new tech, and making flowers a real part of daily life and culture. So Korea's strategy is pretty smart. It's trying to blend the massive scale of the Dutch model with that cultural touch from the Japanese model. So on one hand, you have these huge, top-down government plans. But at the same time, the future of the flower industry is also blooming from the ground up. And it's being driven by individual farmers using some very modern, very digital tools. And this really lays out the two different paths that are shaping the industry's future. You've got the top-down, government-led strategy, that big industrial cluster model we were just talking about. And then you see the total opposite, a grassroots, bottom-up approach. This is where individual farms are jumping on platforms like TikTok, building their own brands, and connecting directly with customers, one hashtag at a time. It's fascinating.
You know, the story of Seondo is such a powerful reminder that huge, massive transformation can start with just one person's simple passion. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What untapped potential, what beautiful idea, what daffodil is just sitting there waiting to be planted in your own community, ready to bloom.